So if you own an NFA item, you know that the wait sucks. You buy it, you can't stop thinking about it, you spend all your time tracking the days. I've been there, it sucks. That being said, a lot of people have told me it gets easier the more NFA items you have. That might be true, but when I got this, I was super stoked, couldn't stop thinking about it. That being my Honey Badger SD. I think this might be my favorite NFA item to date. Before I get into today's video, I wanted to share you guys a website that I just made as a way to put out some merchandise to, support my channel, also to give you guys some cool stuff. So these are the limited edition stickers that you can find at my website, which the link is below. I appreciate you guys' support. It's overwhelming. I never intended anyone to take me seriously, but thank you guys so much. Your support is awesome. So the Honey Badger SD is kind of one of those guns that doesn't really need an introduction. You show it to people and everyone's like, that's a Honey Badger. So the telltale signs of a Honey Badger SD is, the suppressor under the handguard, the collapsible stock, and the tan kind of goldish color, if you will. I first fell in love with this gun back in Call of Duty, the one we don't talk about, Call of Duty Ghosts, whatever. This is the best thing to come out of the game. Super cool. It just has that, that in between an MP5 SD, AR-15, golden look. Super cool. So had to get one, and I am super happy with it. So I'll kind of be the first to admit that I'm not the professional when it comes to understanding the LVAW contract or the low vis assault weapon contract. But I do know that is where this kind of came from. So people, the government or people wanted a weapon that was both concealable, lethal, and they wanted to replace the MP5 SD. So kind of that's also how 300 Blackout was sort of introduced to the market. So 300 Blackout, which is the round that this is chambered in, is basically a 30 cal or 7.62 projectile stuffed inside of a 5.56 case. So the use of that 30 caliber projectile inside of the 5.56 case kind of does two things. So it increases the amount of energy that it can put into a target. So, the bullet carries more mass, thus more energy translated to the target. And also, use of the 5.56 cartridge makes it to where it can accept 5.56 magazines. So this is actually just a standard AR-15 magazine. With that being said about the magazines, one of the benefits of the 300 Blackout is the fact that you can go from supersonic ammo, which is, high velocity, high energy, it has a supersonic crack, all with a change of a magazine. You can insert subsonic rounds, which are, as it says, below the sound barrier. So it doesn't have that supersonic crack. They still carry a lot of energy. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's the amount of energy that a 45 ACP carries, but all with the change of a magazine. That being said, the Honey Badger does have some upgrades, which we'll talk about later, which cope with the, the change between subsonic and supersonic ammo. But with that, the 300 Blackout is super cool in the fact that you can change your ammo supply on the go. So obviously I made some additions to my Honey Badger. The first being the aim point up top. So, I like aim points. I kind of like EOTechs too. I just go back and forth between aim point and EOTech. Really no preference there. And looking at the front is one of the best upgrades you can possibly make for your Honey Badger SD or, any AR with a suppressor under the handguard, and that is the burn-proof rail wrap. So what this does is basically exactly what it says. It wraps the rail, protects your hands from the heat that's carried from the suppressor to the rail, and it makes it bearable. Without this rail wrap, I've shot like 15 rounds and it was getting super uncomfortable to where you had to either hold it right here or the mag well. But as you can see, obviously if you're supporting the rifle, you want to get your hand as far towards the muzzle as possible to, get some leverage on it. You want to have your hand up here. Well, that's with the no touch zone. So if you have a handguard and a suppressor combo sort of like this, or if you have a Honey Badger SD, you should get one of these. Promise you'll love it. Just a little bit behind the rail wrap on here, I have the adjustable gas block. So each Honey Badger comes with an adjustable gas block, and that's to sort of tune your rifle to the cartridge you're shooting. So say if you're strictly shooting subsonic ammo, you notice some some issues with cycling or anything like that with that low pressure ammo, you can actually tune your gun to your ammo. So it's a really nice addition from Q. Really like that. So much like the Knight's Mod 2 gas system that has a castle nut and then the gas block which secures it to the barrel, the Q Honey Badgers also have a barrel nut system in front of the gas block, which means that it has a really good gas seal, which means it has less gas leakage. Therefore, you have more pressure going back on the gun, and you can kind of sort of fine tune your gun without a bunch of leakage. So other than the suppressor under the handguard, one of the other features that makes the Honey Badger special is the telescoping stock. So one thing you'll notice about this stock is it only has two positions. It either has compact or stowed, and then it has deployed. So one thing that I will say about the Ghetto Blaster by Noveski is it has an intermediate setting, which I would prefer, but I understand the concept behind this. It's meant to just be a rapid deploy, like grab and go sort of weapon, but I really wish there was some kind of in between, because it kind of gets, on your cheek right there, but sort of nitpicky. The last kind of cool feature I will talk about the external surface of the Honey Badger is its finish. So something that Q does, and I think that AAC did it back when the Honey Badger was originally developed, is the use of clear anodizing. So you'll notice it has this kind of gold finish. That's actually the color of the anodizing process that the aluminum turns. So that's kind of cool. It's kind of distinct, and I think a lot of people nowadays are preferring the sort of tan anodized or tanadized finish. So now that we've talked about the outside of the Honey Badger, let's dive in and see what makes it special from the inside. So now that I have this on the table in front of me, I'm going to do what every Honey Badger owner dreads doing, which is taking it apart, showing you guys what's inside. So I'm going to try to do this as gracefully as possible, but you'll notice that there is no buffer tube like on a traditional AR, so there's no buffer retainer. All of the bolt carrier, buffer and spring are all one unit. They are hopefully not going to come shooting out at me, but I'll try to take it apart. Relatively painless. And there is my Honey Badger disassembled. So you can see that both the bolt carriers lined up next to each other. This one being a standard bolt carrier out of my Mark 12, this one being the Honey Badger. The Honey Badger is a little bit short, and that is to have this piece stuck into it. So with that piece, it's actually the length of a standard carrier, and this little spring is actually its buffer spring. So all of that is controlling the action of the gun. I have had trouble chambering a round the first time, but a lot of guys that are Honey Badger owners have attributed that to amount of grease. So I have oiled it and it's been better. So one thing that I will give to Q, they have put a really nice trigger in this. So for a premium AR trigger, you can't really go wrong with a Geisley. I believe this is an SDE, so Super Dynamic Enhanced. Awesome trigger out of the box. I know they were using AR Gold triggers, which I personally have never had any experience with them, but the SDE is super nice, and it does come with the Honey Badger. So really that is the lower of the Honey Badger. You notice that it does have a QD sling swivel on each side, so that's kind of cool. The push button is only on one side, so you can only actuate it from this side. So pushing it, depressing it, and then pulling it, and that will lock it into place. And to close it, you do the same thing. So the upper on the Honey Badger is relatively standard, other than it has the cutout for the Honey Badger stock. So you can see with that, with the lower right here, this is for the Honey Badger stock to go in. So without this little cut, the Honey Badger stock would not be able to go in. So if you were to take this lower and put it on an AR-15 upper, it would not fit. Well, just kidding. I take my previous statement back. It will work on a AR-15 upper, although there is a little bit of a gap right there. But I present you the world's first Mark 12 Honey Badger. So the part that I've been dreading is obviously putting the thing back together. So obviously we're going to put our charging handle back in. Then we're going to put our bolt carrier in. And then this is the part where I actually haven't found out a science to it. So we're going to thread that, or put that on the little insert. There it is. After 5 minutes, saying a few curse words, doing a little dance with it, it's together. If you have a honey badger, you'll know that it's a pain in the ass. Don't do this unless you have to. But yeah, assembling the honey badger sucks. I don't know if there's some kind of trick that I don't really know about, but it's not easy. So one of the benefits of 300 Blackout is the fact that you can use 5.56 mags with the ammo and you don't have to change anything. It'll run just fine out of a standard 223 or 5.56 magazine, 30 rounds, has the same taper, everything. The Honey Badger SD actually comes with a magazine, so this is I think it's an OK Industries magazine. But one thing I have done, which was recommended to me by a few people, was get some of the Magpul 300 Blackout mags. They might say, why are you using 300 Blackout specific magazines when it's used in the same magazine? Well, the fact is that I like shooting subsonic ammo, and some of the subsonic projectiles are really long, so they'll have a different longer or overall length than a 5.56 cartridge. So a lot of the times you have differences in the feed lips. I won't get too far in depth of the feed lips, but the Magpul 300 Blackout mags are better suited for those longer projectiles. One thing that I'm about to add to my Honey Badger, which I'm going to do a separate video on, is the Edgar Sherman design sling. Super excited to try these out because I've been running, my old Vickers tactical sling. Those are doing just fine, but I wanted to try these out because they've gotten a lot of buzz recently, which is how awesome they are. And I think that it's very low profile, if you will. And one of the abilities of the sling is that you can stow it. I think it'd be really kind of perfect on the Honey Badger, but I'm waiting on hardware. So that's in the future. So thank you so much for watching my video on the Honey Badger SD. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned some things. I hope you didn't decide to go buy one because they are going for crazy prices on Gunbroker right now. If you see one at your store, buy it. You'll love it, I promise. This thing is awesome. I know ammo sucks. I am paying exorbitant amounts for ammo just like you are, and I still enjoy shooting just as much as ever. Be safe out there. I know the climate of the world is changing, but stick in there and we'll get through this. So even through this whole deal, I will stick through my upload schedule of once every other Friday. I also will be doing more live streams. Those of you who checked out my live stream later this week, thank you so much for coming out. Let me know if I could do more live streams or other content like that. I enjoy it. I love, sharing with you guys and getting feedback. And I really think the live stream is kind of cool because you can kind of sort of interact with me directly. So thank you so much, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.